Hi, I'm Byron, and welcome back to WIM Makes. Now, WIM Makes is our newest series where we show you some of the behind-the-scenes tips and techniques that we use to make our short films. Last week, we made someone disappear, and this time, let's make someone multiply. Filmmaking can be pretty tough, especially when you're starting out. But, with a few learned tips and techniques, and maybe a few extra hands, you can produce something pretty amazing. Let's take a look at how we made that happen.
As with nearly any editing technique, the first step is understanding how to shoot your scene. For this multiplication trick, you will want the camera to be as still as possible and not move between the shots. Once you have your camera set up, we want to plan out how each figure is going to fit in the frame. If there is going to be movement, be careful with having any two of your figures from crossing over each other. While it is not impossible, it will involve a more detailed editing job. Be sure to film each of your scenes and, if necessary, film an empty background. In our case, we filmed 3 different scenes with our figure in 3 different locations. For our background, we are using the scene where our figure is the furthest back. Be sure to drag your scenes into your composition, with your background being the bottommost layer. We only want to work with 2 layers at a time, so if you have more than 2, be sure to hide and mute that layer. As always, label each layer. After you have your layers, organize them so that they are timed correctly. Now comes the actual editing. Be sure you have the correct layer selected. This should not be the background layer. After selecting the layer, we are going to create a mask. To do this, select the pen tool. Then, trace an outline around the figure in the foreground. How rough or detailed you will have to be with the pen tool will vary largely depending on how close 2 of your figures may be at any time. For our first 2 figures, they have quite a bit of space between them. Thus, we can be more liberal with how much space we leave around our figure. After completing your mask, you should see some immediate results. You can fine-tune any discrepancies by playing with the feathering tool. You can access these tools by selecting the drop-down arrow next to the layer, then masks, and again. And after a quick RAM preview, we see we have successfully completed the multiplication technique. But what if you wanted to be a little more technical and decided to move 2 figures closer together so that they crossed paths? For the most part, you will be following the same steps. The difference would be in the detailed outline of your figure and having to set keyframes for your mask path. Let's take a look. For this one, we can see that our figure is now slightly in front of our other figure. Once again, we will be drawing a mask around the figure in the foreground, but we must be careful to be as detailed as possible in the area where the 2 figures cross paths. Since we have already gone through this, we are being a little more rough with our outline. Again, upon completing your mask, you will see immediate results. As always, tidy up by playing with your feathering tool. This, however, is not it. Scrubbing the timeline, we can see that our figure moves in and out of our mask. To correct this, we will need to go frame by frame and adjust our mask path. Make sure to save a keyframe for each change. while time-consuming if done correctly, it will produce rewarding results.